And in which war did you serve, Tom?
Served in Vietnam.
And what branch of the service?
The Army.
What was your highest rank?
Specialist 4th class.
All right, let's start by finding out how you got into the service. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, I was drafted.
Do you recall the date and where you were living at the time?
I was living in Bloomfield, Connecticut. I believe it was June
68.
68, yeah.
So had you just graduated?
No, I graduated in 66.
Oh.
I tried to go, well, I was going to a branch of University of Hartford, and I didn't have the right courses the second semester. So I decided to take that semester off, get my courses together, and go back after that one semester, and didn't work.
No, that opened you up to the draft.
Oh yes, about 30 days later, I was getting a physical notice, and another 30 days, I was drafted, along with about 9 others from Bloomfield at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where did you do your basic training?
Fort Dix, New Jersey.
And can you tell me what that was like?
It's basically trying to get us mentally ready to go in the war, battle or any job that we were going to have, and get us physically fit. And it was a lot of running, a lot of training, mostly physically.
Do you recall any of your instructors?
Not by name, but I do remember a couple of them. But I wish, I don't remember their names now. But yeah.
How long was basic training?
2 months.
Did you go with anybody else that you knew from Bloomfield, or did you just go on your own?
Oh no, there was, like I say, probably 5 or 6 of us from Bloomfield went the same day.
And you all ended up in the same basic training class?
Same squad, same basic training class, yeah.
What happened after you finished basic?
After we finished basic, they started splitting us off to different directions. Myself and 3 or 4 others from Bloomfield wound up in Fort Polk, Louisiana, for advanced infantry training.
What was the advanced infantry training like?
It was, after going to Vietnam, it was close to it. We were training in the mud, we were sleeping in the water, we were forced marching, crawling underneath barbed wire fences as they're shooting over our heads and things. So it's, the training was really to gear us up to be in Vietnam. And I think they were saying that was probably the closest they had in the United States, climate-wise and everything else as far as what we were going to see in Vietnam.
At that point, did you pretty much know that you were going to be going to Vietnam?
Had a good idea, but no, I kept hoping it wasn't going to happen. They even asked us at one point, where would you like to be stationed? And everybody's saying, Europe and in places like that. I put Alaska down, figuring nobody else wanted to go, so that didn't work either.
How many weeks of AIT was it?
It was 2 months again.
After your graduation from AIT, where did you go?
Went home for a month. We had a month off.
At that point, did you have orders for Vietnam, or you still didn't know?
No, we had orders for Vietnam. So we knew.
With that hanging over your head, what'd you do in your 1 month at home?
Try to enjoy it as much as you could. So, yeah. We had parties. We had, Bloomfield was a small town at that point, and everybody knew each other. We all hung around together. So it was nice to get home and be with your friends. Yeah.
After that month, where did you go? Directly to Vietnam?
No, we went to, I'm trying to think, out in Seattle, I guess it was, yeah. Seattle, Washington, where he sat there for maybe 2 weeks waiting for our orders to go. And there was another friend of ours that was stationed in Seattle at that time from Bloomfield. So he took us sightseeing, fishing, watching the salmon jumping up the rivers, things. So we had a pretty good time, but yet you were nervous. You couldn't, knew it was coming. You didn't want it to come.
Now, you were still with some guys from Bloomfield?
Yeah, yeah.
When you finally did go overseas, how did you go?
Well, they told us if we can go on ship, our time would start the minute our feet hit the ship, or else we'd fly over. We wound up flying over. So flew from Seattle to Japan, all commercial airlines. Japan, they refueled. They had stewardess and pilots that had to sign in if they were going to go to Vietnam. And from there, we flew to Cam Bay.
Did you land in Cameron Bay?
Yes.
What was your first impression?
Looked like a resort, Cam Bay. It was, but yet we had no idea where we were going at that point in Vietnam. And slowly, they started spreading us, the guys from Bloomfield plus others to different areas. And this Jimmy Oliver I graduated high school with, him and I were still standing there wondering where we're going. So they flew us up to Camp Sharon, up near the DMZ.
Just you and Oliver?
Yep. Everybody else went in different directions, different jobs.
What were your duties?
We didn't have any. We didn't have a rifle in our hand. We stood in
You
the.
didn't have a gun yet?
Nope. We stood there for in a tent, where once in a while somebody come by, mess hall time and things like that, or don't worry, we didn't forget you. And probably 2 to 3 days later, they finally sent us over to camp to our squad at Camp Sharon, and that's found out we're going into a mechanized infantry. Never saw armor personnel carrier before in my life, but that's what they put us in.
Right, so with all that training, you didn't have any training in mechanized infantry
No.
of any kind?
Didn't even know it existed.
So, describe to me what mechanized infantry is.
Well, it's tanks, artillery that moves around. Armor personnel carriers is where I wound up. In fact, I was there maybe a month, and the driver of my squad went on R&R, and they told me I was a driver. So I learned by climbing in and taking off. But I guess they liked the way I drove because they had me lead the company every place we went.
So you became a driver and you've never even driven this thing before?
No. I rode on it, sat on top of it with the rest of the guys for maybe a month and a half, 2 months at the most. Yeah.
How big was your unit and what kinds of other vehicles did it consist of?
We were just, my squad in my unit was just the armored personnel carriers.
So it was all armored personnel carriers? How many?
I mean, there was tanks that we'd mix in with at times, but we can go months or not seeing them. Artillery sometimes, would ride in with us, but that was very seldom. It was just basically us on our squad and our company and in the armored personnel carriers.
How many armored personnel carriers did it consist of? Approximately.
Oh, I'm gonna say maybe 6 or 8. I don't really remember.
Can you describe to me what an armored personnel carrier is exactly?
It looks something like a tank. There's a hatch on the top. It drives with your controls. You sit inside with your head sticking out, and there's controls to drive it. It's a track and not tires. Made out of heavy steel, and we were told you don't ride in there in case you hit a mine or anything, which I did hit a mine with it one time. Yeah, according to everybody from the other squads, I said this 5-ton, 10-ton, whatever it is, our personnel carrier went up in the air about 8 feet and came back down. And we
How many men does it take to operate that?
basically one. There's
So
on
you
the
could be the driver and just be the only guy on that personnel?
well, no, we'd always leave if we have to stop and go in an area. I would stay with the armored personnel carrier. We'd always have one guy with us, a gunner with us. There is an M60 machine gun on the top of the armored personnel carrier too. One person would man that. Then at night we take that down with us. So
So what were your first few missions like?
you know, I may be strange. I don't know, but yeah, when we left, when we left Bradley Airport, and our parents were there, and a couple of guys were saying, "Don't turn around and look at them. It's going to make you harder to go." I turned around and said, "I'll see you in a year." I knew I was coming home for some reason. That's the way I felt. But to get back to your question again,
What were your first few missions like?
uh, you didn't know what to expect. You're sitting there, like I say, at that point, I wasn't driving. I was sitting on top with the rest of the guys, and you'd stop and go out to different areas to check out if enemies there or bring back, let's say, reconnaissance, I guess, is what you'd say. And at times we run into a small battle, but that was one of the things that the training gave us, and we didn't realize it until we got there and we got into battles that you knew what to do, and you just automatically jumped up and did it. We had a few guys that were people that were really afraid of it and knew they thought they're going to get killed right away and they had no idea what to do. Or might have been on drugs, and it made it tougher on the guys that were trying to fight and keep these guys safe at the same time. But
Were there any incidents that happened that you can recall in those first few missions you went on, or were they pretty routine reconnaissance missions?
most of them were pretty routine. At times through even the routine missions, we'd wind up with a gunfight or something. Times we'd have to call in the helicopters, which because we're in a big open field, we didn't want to walk or drive through it. The helicopters would come in and spray with ammo, probably every 4 inches to about the size of a football field in about 10 seconds. Then we'd come back in and go through and make sure nothing was there. Uh, Most of the time they were gone or they were dead by the time the helicopters left. Uh,
So after your first month and a half in Camp Sharon, you became a driver. Did you remain as a driver for the rest of your time in Vietnam?
right up until the probably excuse me, probably the last month and a half, we got wiped out pretty bad at one point, towards just before I was going to be leaving, and they put me as a squad leader. And at that point, yeah, I was afraid of. Yeah, I was wounded twice already. Didn't want to get wounded the third time. So, but the time the time that I got wounded a second time, and maybe I'm jumping guns, but we went up to Quai San. We went up with the whole company, probably about 120 men, and after 3 nights of fighting, they had to call the Marines back in, and they went home with 20 healthy guys. The rest were either in the hospital or dead at that point. And I had a grenade land basically right in front of my face and threw me up in the air, and I came down where I couldn't see anything, and I feel in my eyes, and all I could feel is it's wet. And I'm thinking, damn, Christ, I'm blind. And I started getting my eyesight bad, and luckily it was just mud and water because it was raining the whole time. And I got my eyesight back. My 16, the grips were blown off it. The 60 caliber machine gun was blown over. I came down and the guy next to me, but I broke both eardrums. I couldn't hear a thing. And the guy with me, shrapnel in his leg, and broke one eardrum. So, like I say, when I spent maybe a week in the hospital ship along with him at the same time. And when I got back and they wanted me to be squad leader, like I said, just no way I wanted to even go back out in the field again. So I went back to see the doctor, and the doctor says, "You're not supposed to be out in the field. You're not supposed to be near any loud noises." So I spent probably the last month and a half in base camp, doing odds and ends there, getting things ready to send out to the men.
So describe that battle a little bit more. You drove up to Khe Sanh. Was this during the siege of Khe Sanh?
Uh,
When was this? What year?
was 60, 68, 69, 69. Yeah, the later part of 69, I believe.
And your unit was called in to assist the Marines?
We went, there was nobody up there when we came. Yeah, we went up there and we're pushing down high grass. It was a winding mountain we just kept driving up, where if you look over the side or go too far, you're falling through. I think it was the second time we were up there in the year I was there. And we got up there and probably as wide as a football field. The grass was just matted down, so we knew we were going to get hit pretty bad. And one squad that was next to me was smoking marijuana and things, not setting up. And so we tried setting up barbed wire and flares and any kind of ammo, anything we could at that point. But I guess they were just sitting there watching us, because as soon as it got dark, we got hit hard. And the squad that was doing the marijuana and everything, within 10, 15 minutes, each one of them were gone.
How many casualties were there?
I don't remember exactly. Like I say, we had one of the bigger helicopters, and I'm trying to think that I'm losing track of the name of the helicopter. It's a type where you open the back and you could drive a Jeep or something in it. Chinooks, yes. We had two of them come out when the light came back, the daylight came, and one of them was filled with seriously wounded. I was supposed to get on it. My buddy that had a shrapnel, we were supposed to get on it. There wasn't enough room, so that the Chinook left, and the other one came in right behind it, and we had there had to be a dozen or more of that died. And myself and my buddy went in on that helicopter. And we got up in the air. Of course, there's no windows in it, and the air is blowing through us. And all the ponchos we ripped. Our buddies up in blew off. So here's my friend, my buddy, and I. We're just standing there staring at these guys, laying there dead. The guys that we lived with for 3/4 of a year or so. And that's one thing. Being near an airport here in East Granby, I hear that Chinook every time, and I don't have to look up. I just picture those guys constantly. It's never going to go away, laying there. I had one of the gunners from on the helicopter come over, try to give me a cigarette, and I didn't want it, and I couldn't hear what he was saying. He finally grabbed me around the shoulders and brought me over next to where he was, and so he could be in his station, and held my arm the whole time. Another guy went over to my buddy and did the same thing for him. So.
Were you the only two wounded on that?
No, all the other wounded, on that helicopter. They all went before that, yep. And seeing our injuries weren't as severe as the others, we waited to the next helicopter. That's where we put all the wounded.
So you said you got hit by a grenade, and it was night, so you were probably not in your armored personnel carrier. Were you in the bunk?
No, we were in foxholes that we dug. We spent the whole 2-3 hours putting barbed wire down, grenades, everything you could think of down in front of us, and barbed wire different places. But this friend of mine I went through high school with in the same squad, he went out on point with 2 or 3 others. He said, as soon as the fighting started, we're looking face to face. The enemy was just sitting there watching us the whole time, and we didn't notice it. We didn't see him.
So you're in your foxhole, and a grenade came in?
Grenade landed right in the top of it. In fact, if it wasn't for the guy in the foxhole with me that I see on the reunions now, if it wasn't for him, he kicked it away somewhat. And that's where he got the shrapnel in his leg. but I went, like you see in the comic books or something, I went flying up in the air and came back down. Landed on him somewhat and slowly got my eyesight back, but I couldn't hear a thing after that. And then I'm trying to fight with the grips blown off of my 16 and, things like that.
Well, that had to be pretty scary.
Yeah, that was the worst night.
Was it?
Actually, it lasted 3 nights, but the fighting. As soon as the daylight came, they were gone. As soon as the darkness came, they were back. They felt that we had the upper hand in the daytime. So we had artillery flares coming in, keeping the whole place lit all night and things. But, one of the things that for years I didn't want to talk about, and it still bothers the heck out of me.
Now, you were hit the first night,
Yes,
and you were medevaced out that next morning?
next morning, yeah. Luckily, I was never shot. I was wounded twice, never shot. So I had the grenade that time, and driving the armored personnel carrier, we hit, like you say, what they felt was like a 500-pound bomb.
That was
And
your first bomb.
that was the first one, yeah.
Go back to, we'll do it reverse, your second one.
Yeah.
So once you got medevaced out that next day, where did they take you?
Took me to the hospital ship.
Right out to the hospital?
Yes,
You know
yes.
what the name was?
No, I don't remember. No.
And did they work on you right then and there?
There really wasn't much they could do with the hearing. I mean, yeah, they cleaned my ears. They did whatever they could. Yeah, right there. As soon as we came in, there was a good handful of us that went in on a hospital ship.
Where did you go?
I don't know how far off the land the hospital ship was sitting. I don't even remember the name of it, to be honest. But we went there, and it was set up with bunks like a Navy ship. Hospital areas for the doctors and things to work on us, nurses and things there. So I probably spent 3 or 4 days there, and they sent me back to my company. Maybe a little bit longer.
So you stayed right out at sea, wherever it was they were
Yeah,
on the ship?
Yeah.
Until they sent you back into action?
Well, they sent me back to my base camp.
How long did it take to get your hearing back?
Oh, probably about 4 weeks before I started coming back. 3, 4 weeks.
What did you do during that period?
Well, my lieutenant that was back in base camp used to be on my armored personnel carrier with me. Wanted to send me on guard duty. So
No hearing?
with no hearing. So yeah, I told him I couldn't hear him, so he wrote it down. You have guard duty. I says, great. I says, if the enemy's coming, I'm just going to put my hands up, go over to your bed, point to you. Okay, I guess you could be on KP duty then. So I helped out, which KP duty at the time with the 4 or 5 cooks they had there was really not much, because we'd go out on the armored personnel carrier sometimes for 50, 60 days at a time. And, if we're in a good spot, they'd fly food to us. Otherwise, it was sea rations. So there wasn't much to do with the mess tent.
So you would be out in the field for 50 or 60 days straight without going back?
At times, yeah. We get orders to go up to a certain place, and we go do it, and next you're getting another order to go someplace else, or some other fight might have kind of, sitting in a different place, so hurry up over there. So you're expecting to go out for a week, and you may be out, like I say, 60, 70 days. Same.
Well, you said you were at Camp Sharon
Mhm.
the whole time you were in Vietnam?
Yeah.
So that was your base?
That was a
You
base.
always keep coming back there?
Yeah.
So when you would go out on these missions, whether it was for a couple days or 60 days,
Mhm.
was it always in that area?
No, we can go from one end of the North Vietnam where I was. I mean, the houses were grass, made out of grass, cardboard, whatever they could find, steel. No, we can go from one end to the other. We were down by the ocean one time, and half was in the garden while the other half were swimming and getting clean. And then all of a sudden we got a call. We had to go way up into the mountains. So it's just wherever they needed us, we'd go. And the problem was you were in the same clothes all the time. You're not showering. Your clothes are filthy. You smell. But we all were the same. We'd be drinking sometimes out of bomb craters because we ran out of water and purifying pills. So
Let's go back to the first Purple Heart you received. You said that was when you hit a mine with your
yes.
person. So describe to me what happened that day.
Well, like usual, I'm leading the company wherever we were going. We were out patrolling, and we got to a river, and we're trying to find a way across the river. And these armored personnel carriers, if you had to, it has a bilge pump in there. If you had the plugs underneath, this thing would swim. The motor would keep turning, this thing would swim. Well, this one, we got to the river, and the lieutenant calls me down, and a company commander standing there, and all the other lieutenants from the other squads, and they're talking, and they finally looked at me, and he said, "We're going through here." And I looked at my lieutenant. I says, "I'm not going through there." He says, "This is where we're going. I'll give you an order." I says, "It's set up like a boat launch back in the United States." I says, "We've never seen anything like that before." He says, "Well, if you don't do it, I'm having you court-martialed." I says, "Okay, get on. We'll go." And he says, "Well, I'm not getting on." So company commander looked at him and said, "That's your squad. You're getting on too." And we moved about 5 feet, 10 feet, and we hit a mine. We were halfway in the water. We hit a mine. And the other squad said this, I don't know, like I say, I don't know how many tons this armored personnel carrier weighs, but went up about 6 feet in the air and started flipping over. And of course, I'm driving with just my head sticking out, and the guys are sitting on the top of it. And it flipped over, came down, and landed against the riverbank, luckily. So I didn't get, I wasn't squished. These guys kept flying off it, but most of them weren't that bad. One fellow he hit his head on the armored personnel carrier as he's being thrown off, and then landed in the river. And luckily our sergeant pulled him out before he drowned, but he spent 2 years in the hospital having his bone structure in his head and everything else, and some other things done, plus psycho, trying to, I don't know how you'd even say it, trying to get him to live life without remembering that too much. And we had another guy laying inside, luckily on the opposite side where we hit the mine. To this day, he doesn't remember it. And that's why you're not supposed to be inside while you're going. But yeah, we see him. I see him on my reunions, and he keeps kidding with me. He says, "You're the reason I can't remember anything." And I says, "Pardon my language." And he says, "You dumbass, you don't do what you're supposed to, so something's going to happen to you." But him and I are good friends. We kid around and everything. He's,
So what did you do when, boom, you hit it and exploded? So you were actually in there.
I was in there.
Thrown out? Or?
No, I was thrown around in there. I climbed out. It was laying on its side pretty much. I climbed out. And I guess I was dazed because I remember one of the guys coming over to me and, trying to talk to me. I guess maybe trying to answer and everything. The thing I remember was he kept trying to give me a cigarette. And I quit smoking before I went over. So I kept telling him I didn't want it. He kept arguing with me. I kept telling him I didn't want it. And finally he says, after arguing back and forth for a while, he says, "You're okay now." He says, he just kept doing that so I can, focus on, I guess, what happened. But then I went over and started trying to help some of our guys at the time. But
and then did you stay in action? Did you have to?
No, went back out to the hospital ship. There's the top half of this finger, my right index finger, was cut up pretty bad. Wide open on one side and everything. I guess maybe from hitting the gauges or something. And I had maybe inch and a half hole in my right leg. So that's where the first Purple Heart came from.
So they treated you on the hospital ship. Did you stay there for any amount of time, or did you go later?
We probably stayed there a day or two at the most. My whole squad was there. In fact, I got a picture of all of us putting the new armored personnel carrier together and bandages on them.
You have now your vehicle is blown up.
Yeah, well, they sent me another one right away. By the time we waited, our squad waited in base camp for a while and did things, not that long, until a new one came in, and Mike Sargent and a few others and myself started putting everything together in it. The only thing it had, like I said, it has bilge pumps and it has plugs on the bottom. Well, this one came in without the plugs. And we were waiting for them to be sent. And we're out again going across the river. And my lieutenant again wanted to go across the river. I kept telling him this isn't going to make it. So, yeah, he says the bilge pumps will work faster. Well, we got about halfway across and our personnel carrier sunk. And we had two or three soldiers from Australia with us. One of them drowned. I'm not a great swimmer. I had all I could do to make it ashore again. So, yeah,
That was your second armored personnel carrier?
Yeah, it was the second one, yeah. I mean, it wasn't, right away when this happened, but yeah. Yeah, we went, actually, I had three armed personnel carriers. Those two, and then but Quezon, they didn't have enough drivers to come by and bring them all back after 3 nights of fighting. So they blew most of them up. So.
This same lieutenant that keeps telling you to cross the rivers, did he stop telling you that after that second one?
Well, yeah, he had no choice. Our company started, our squad started trying to find a way of getting him out of the field. I hate to say it wound up being one way or the other before he got us killed. But all the other squads now were getting involved too because he was doing the same thing to them. And our company commander put him in the base camp. So to stay there, yeah. We had $500 out on him. And nobody really wanted to kill him, but somehow get him out, injure him or whatever, before he got all of us killed. He was right out of officer training school. And we had another lieutenant that came in and took over. He was a teacher from Texas. And when we were up at...
How was he?
He was great. He was the nicest guy in the world. But when we were up at Quezon, the Conti area there, he got killed. The other guy spent a career in the Army. So, yeah, I guess the nice people go first.
If you were on recon or in the field, what would a typical day be like if you didn't run into action?
A lot of times we would stop in an area, and I'd have one person, one gunner with me, and I would stay, and the other drivers would stay. The same thing, would stay with their own personnel carrier, and the company go out and run us on, check in their different areas, just patrolling around to see if there's any any enemy near us or near our camp, our base camp, or anything else. So,
did you go into villages and
such? Yeah. I wish you didn't ask, but yeah, I'd never seen Saigon. I was always up in the boonies, more or less, right at the border, north and south. But we were out patrol one time, and we came to this little village, and right away, all the women and the holding babies come out, and the guys, trying like buku friend is what they call them. Buku means a lot, and they'd be waving to us and things, and so we got down and we're trying to, mingle with them and talk with them somehow. And one woman came running over with her child in her hand, and he handed it to one of the soldiers to hold the baby. And he's got it looking at it, and all of a sudden she started running and had a hand grenade underneath the baby. And killed the baby, killed our soldier. Yeah.
So it was never safe, even on your typical day.
No, it wasn't. You never knew what to expect from one minute to the other. We were out driving through to get to an area, and a tiger came running through. Our lieutenant wanted the tiger skin, so now I'm driving down through the woods and up, and everybody's shooting at her for him. Never hit the thing, never got him. We were set up at night one time, and you sleep on the ground. You can't sleep in the armored personnel carriers because the silhouette of it. I just got off my hour guard duty and woke the guy up that's next for the hour. Fell asleep, and a short while later he's shaking me and gave me a quiet sign. And we woke everybody up, and it sounded like we were going to get hit by 5 or 6 companies of Vietnamese coming through. So we're all waiting, prepared, and 3 elephants walked through. So yeah, so we just let them go where they wanted to. It was dark out, and it was nice seeing them. They didn't bother us. They just went where they wanted to go. So
Tigers, elephants.
oh yeah. So it was one of the better times we had there.
Well, let's talk a little bit about daily life and the luxuries you had. How did you stay in touch with your family when you were overseas?
Yeah, it would. Whenever we had a chance, we had some downtime or in an area that wasn't bad, I'd write them, and they'd write me back. There was a phone, and when we got off the hospital ship, we came to, I don't remember, it was like a phone booth or something there, and I was able to call my parents because they got a notice from the Army that I was wounded, and that's all they said. So I was able to call them and let them know, what happened to me, and I'm fine, don't worry about it. And the next time, the same thing. In fact, it's the second time I had to have somebody else call them and say, they just lost my hearing for a while, he'll be fine. So, yeah, I don't remember where that phone was. Seemed like the only time we saw is when we first got off the.
You were in the field so much. Did you get regular mail delivery?
No.
Only when you go back to base camp?
No, the base camp we were at was right up in where the fighting was going on too. No, I was never in an area like Cameron Bay or Da Nang or something like that. I mean, no, nobody came up to see us. We were out patrolling one time. We came across I don't think it was a USO show, but it was Vietnamese girls and a guy playing and singing and stuff. So we stopped to listen to it. But that was the only time we ever had anything.
Saw any other USO shows?
Nothing. No.
How big was your base? How big was Camp Sharon?
Oh.
Are you talking like hundreds or thousands?
No. We probably had maybe a couple hundred to most.
Oh.
Yeah. We did have the artillery, the tanks and stuff, away from us in another part. It wasn't that big of a camp.
How was the food?
No, the food from the mess hall was pretty good.
So when you were in camp, there was a mess hall and you had to
well, there was a big army tent set up, and they could cook there. They had the facilities to cook. The water was out of a water tank, which was a wooden water tank, a trailer. But yeah, we could, we'd eat there. But then you weren't there that long. Very few times we were there a week or so. And we'd go back out, and now you're eating sea rations again that were from Second World War.
The entire time you were in the field, you ate sea rations?
Yeah, well, we were at an area that they felt was really safe, and the mess hall would make, the cooks would make something, and they'd fly it out by helicopter and drop it to us. But one of the problems we had also was you'd eat the food from the mess hall, and you get out in areas where you're eating sea rations, you wind up with diarrhea. So every time you kept switching back and forth, you wind up with diarrhea. So, but yeah, it was just the way of life. You get used to living it.
So what are the sea rations like?
They're terrible. They came in a little box, and it had maybe some type of ham in there. Of course, it was all, I don't know, dried food or something like that. It was packed back for the Second World War, so it was still safe. Gives you maybe a little pack, about 4 cigarettes, which I trade off to somebody else. That's about it. It's just those little sea rations. They'd have a can of some type of fruit in it too, little fruit. So it's enough you get used to it. It's you get used to having it.
Did you always have enough supplies? Were there shortages of anything?
There were always shortages of water purification tablets, malaria tablets. The food, no, I don't remember many times if the food wasn't there.
What about other things? Ammunition and parts you needed for your vehicle?
If we're out for a long time, a lot of times this stuff was dropped to us by off a helicopter. But when we leave base camp, inside the armor personnel carrier, we would stack ammo pretty high. We would stack sea rations and things like that. Sea rations had a little piece of toilet paper in there for you. Yeah, most everything we needed was inside that armor personnel carrier when we left, unless we wound up being out for too long and then they have to fly something back into us. We had days out there where it might be 110, 15, 20 degrees. So even with the armor personnel carriers, you try to find a spot that they can't see you that well and hope you don't get hit and, try to stay in the shade. Water, like I say, water, if we're out for a long time, we try to find a river. We had the big water cans we carried down. But there was time when they can push the green algae aside and drink out of, you fill your canteens up with the water because you have nothing else.
Being in the field so much, it had to be pretty stressful. How did you handle the stress of that?
It's just, you get used to it. It's the way of life. I mean, your whole squad's doing it, your company's doing it, and you hear a gun go off, you react to it right away. You just go in motion, know what you have to do. And I don't know, I'm the type, if you have to do something, do it. You don't think about it too much. But, everybody acted about the same.
Did you do anything special for good luck?
Yeah, when I was, just before we went over, the USO was there and they handed us a little package. And in that package was a pair of rosary beads. And I'm Catholic and don't practice it as much now, but back then we pretty big, pretty well into it. I took that pair of rosary beads and I hung around my neck for the whole year I was there.
Do you still have them?
Yep. They're hanging up in my room on a cross. Whether it helped or not, I feel it did.
When you did have downtime, what did you do? Did you have any kind of entertainment?
No. You might have a radio going or something. Guys are walking around talking to each other. We got to make sure the armor personnel's carrier is filled with whatever we need next time we go out, just in case. You never know when you're going to get a call to get out there. And like I said before, you never know how many days you're going to be out there. So.
Did you ever get R&R or leave of any kind?
I put in for Australia for R&R, and my medic and one of the other guys I got close to. In fact, the guy that was with me when I hit the grenade went off, they put me in for Bangkok, and so the orders came for Bangkok. But I had a good time. The three of us went to Bangkok together.
And what was that like? What'd you do?
Oh,
how long was it? A week or a couple days?
It was 5 days, if I remember right. And you go out to eat. You did bars you're in, and you're talking to other soldiers that are going through R&R. In fact, I was headed to the plane to go to Bangkok, and one of my neighbors, probably 3 houses up from where I grew up, was just coming off the plane. The only time I saw him or heard of him until we got back home.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but it was a nice time. I mean, it was back to somewhat of a normal life. Because you're drinking a lot still, and you're partying. There's some shows you go to, massage parlors. It was get your mind off it completely.
And then how was it going from that nice environment back to the field?
You just had it. Yeah, it didn't. I don't know. It's time to go. You just went. Yeah.
What did you think of the officers?
As a whole,
yeah.
Great. Yeah. In fact, I see a couple of them on the reunions at times. The only one, like I say, is a lieutenant we had right out of school for a while. He just couldn't deal with him. He couldn't talk to him. He knew everything. And, came close to getting us killed a few times. So.
What was your opinion of your fellow servicemen?
My pardon?
Your fellow servicemen.
I never really saw a person I didn't like there. I mean, everybody was there for the same reason. We all knew that. We all, yeah, helped each other. You hung around together. No, they were great. And it took them probably 5, 6 years, the guys from my squad, to get me to go on a reunion.
So that's my next question. Did you stay in touch with any of them?
No, no.
After
I just wanted to forget everything. In fact, when I got home, my mother started talking to me about it. He says my father was Second World War Army, and he told my sisters and my mother, he comes home, doesn't want to talk about it. Don't push him. So they both my parents died not knowing a thing. But yeah, I just very little, but I didn't want to talk about it. But no, the guys I was with were great. I kept using well, it wasn't really an excuse, but I was divorced. I was raising 3 kids from 8 up to well, 9, 8, 7, 8, and 7, 9, and 11. I think they were when I got custody of them. So that was my excuse. I can't go on the reunions. I hang up the phone. I don't want to talk about it. And finally, this Jimmy Oliver that went through high school with in the same squad with me called me up. He says, "Tom, the reunion's in Mystic this year. I'm picking you up. Your kids are old enough," which they were. Picked me up, and we went up to the airport here in Bradley Airport. And we're waiting for my squad to get off, a good portion of it. And the first guy off the helicopters, the guy was inside the armored personnel carrier when I hit the mine. And we didn't know whether he was going to make it or not when we left him. And still felt fine. He just doesn't remember that day at all. Then the sergeant and a few others, and then the guy that hit his head against the armored personnel carrier and wound up in a river, spent 2 years in the hospital afterwards. See him every time on the reunion. And it made me feel so much different. Wanted to go each year. Had a good time with them. Everybody was there. Nobody was, nobody died at least from my squad. Well, they did. We had a good number from my squad die, but this corps of soldiers and friends.
So what was that year that you first went to the reunion?
Oh, I don't even remember.
So
I'm guessing.
20 years ago, 10 years ago?
No, I'm guessing maybe 10, 12 at the most.
Wow.
Yeah, years ago.
And does your squad have a reunion every year?
The whole 5th Infantry has a reunion every year. And each year it's, if you want to be involved, deeply involved, and be one of the presidents, you put in for president. You'll be like 4th vice president. Each year you work up, so you have 4 years to get your act together. So wherever that president is each time is, that's where you're going for the reunions.
His hometown?
Yeah, so we've been all over. Been in the Grand Ole Opry. We've been, all over the Northeast and the South. Haven't been out to Texas or the West area yet, but, getting to see a lot of the country while we're there it's a 5-day reunion. We usually stay for 4.
Wow.
Yeah. The 5th day is, all meetings and stuff, so we go home.
Where was your last one last year?
North Carolina.
And where's
We went to Fort, what the heck is the fort down in North Carolina? I'm drawing a blank on it now, I'm sorry. But we went down to see a ton of museums from down the south, veterans museums, army museums, Fort Bragg. We even had lunch at Fort Bragg. Talked to some of the soldiers there. Each year there's bus trips different places. My squad for a while, bus trips were going off and we'd go off in our own direction. But now we decided to start taking the bus trips with everybody. It's nice. There's a lot of the wives there. There's probably 200 people at the reunion.
Where is it this year?
I don't even remember, to be honest. It's I want to say St. Louis, but it isn't. It's a little further south. I don't remember, to be honest.
Well, when you go, you'll know.
Oh, yeah. Well, the 5th Infantry newspaper should be coming out soon, so we have all the information, the hotels, things, so we can start booking. Now, I haven't heard since we came back from the last one where the next one's going to be. So,
did you keep a journal or write letters?
No, I took pictures as much as I could. A lot of times I try to take pictures of me more than the armored personnel carrier, the squad, and things like that. I'd send them home, and back then it was a little cardboard camera, and once it's filled, I'd send it home. My family sent me another one. So no, as far as a journal, no. I just found one letter that I wrote to it was on my way from Seattle to Cameron Bay on the plane that I wrote to my family. The rest of the letters, I don't know what happened with them to them.
But when you had a chance, you did write letters?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Even the downtime as it's getting dark or something and stuff, yeah.
Are there any other memorable experiences from your time in country in Vietnam when you were out?
Not really. I mean, it's
Anything else that stands out in your mind?
just how pretty the country is. Even up where I was, I mean, it was like I say, it wasn't a house you would expect to see. It was sort of made out of grass, hay, cardboard, piece of wood if they could find it, whatever they could find. But yet the land around it, even with the bomb craters in it and stuff like that, it was pretty.
Now, what about where did you stay? Did you have barracks? Did you have tents?
We had tents. Well, we had tents that were, I'm trying to think how many were in. I think 4 were in a tent. But
so the entire year you were there, when you were in camp, you slept in a tent?
We slept in a tent on a cot. They had sandbags, wood up about 4 feet high, maybe 3 feet high. And on the outside of the wood, they had sandbags built up. So if you're sleeping, you'd be down at the level of the sandbags. And that's what we had for the year.
Do you remember your last day in Vietnam?
Pretty much, I was still in base camp, and seeing the guys that were still there. There's still some in base camp that were either wounded or going someplace. Party quite a bit. Knowing it's the next day you're getting up, you're leaving. And the problem was I partied too much, and I woke up the next day on a big helicopter, or not helicopter, airplane, where all the guys are sitting on the ground with a big strap across them, well, not on the ground, but a big strap across them, holding them down. And there had to be 150, 200 guys in the that airplane. And I woke up, and here's 2 guys holding me. And they said, your squad dropped you off and said, wish you the best, and you're headed home. So I passed out drinking and never woke up until I was on the airplane.
So. Lucky they put you on?
Oh, yeah. We flew out of Cameron Bay back to, I guess, Japan again. It was an Army plane we were on then, and then we went back into, I forgot exactly where it was, where we changed over to commercial airlines. That was the longest.
You went over with your friend from town, Oliver.
Yeah.
Did you come back with him too?
No. He was wounded the night after I got wounded a second time. He got shot through the shoulder, wound up out of country in the hospital, and then took him, I don't know how many different operations for him, but he's doing fine now. But no.
Where did you land back in the United States?
Denver. Because I wound up at, I don't even remember the name of the fort. Colorado Springs. I don't remember the name. I'm sorry, it's been so long. But actually, the 5th Infantry re-upped, and the whole unit trained there for a year before they went over. And myself and Jimmy went over as replacements after the Tet offensive. Yeah, Fort Carson. That's what it is. Fort Carson, Colorado.
So when you landed in Fort Carson, were you immediately discharged?
No. If I would have stayed another month and a half, I would have been less than. I'm thinking a month and a half could have been different. I could have got out. I had less than 6 months to go. They would have let me out when I came. But I says, after being wounded twice, I'm going home. And luckily, my wounds weren't as serious as most of them. So I went back and back to the barracks again.
Where? In
In
Colorado?
Fort Carson, Colorado.
Yeah.
They passed, they're processing them through, and a lot of them were going back and having them retrained and try to get them to re-enlist. They looked at me and they looked at my medical record and says, we can't place you any place till you see a doctor. And the doctor again says it did not mean for near about noises. So I wound up in the base laundry. There was probably 5 or 6 soldiers, GIs there, and a lot of civilian women from Colorado Springs. Their husbands are overseas, and I was pressing shirts for about 2 weeks, and then they put me in charge of the rest of the military there. We worked 8 to 4:30, and we were off. We didn't have to do guard duty or anything.
Wow. How long did you stay there?
7 months, I think it was.
Did you live right on base?
Yeah, lived right in the barracks with everybody else, just like basic training.
And then you worked 8 to 4, and were you free to do whatever you wanted?
Pretty much. I think one time I had to go on guard duty. I think they were short-handed or somebody was sick for some reason, but I did guard duty out in the cold, for a week plus working. Another time they had us confined to company area. They wouldn't tell us why, and this went on for probably a month or so. And then all of a sudden we got the call, everybody on the buses. So we took our packs and everything, got on the buses, and we sat there another hour or so. And they finally said, well, we're not going right now. Everybody off. So we got off, and then maybe, I don't know, it's been so long, maybe another month later or so, 3 weeks later, they told us, you're off. You can go wherever you are. You're not confined anymore. So then we asked them, we asked them before, and they wouldn't tell us where we were going. But then we asked them, where were we going? He said, Kent State. So we were on our way to Kent State. But never made it, luckily. No. Which they would have never got me to even probably, I won't say hold a gun, but I would have never shot a gun again. I haven't shot a gun since I came home now. Yeah, they're going to have to be, somebody's going to have to be affecting my family one way or the other before I ever shoot anybody again.
Did you stay at Fort Carson until you were discharged?
Yes. Yeah.
Recall your last day in service?
No, I just remember saying goodbye to everybody and, getting on a cab and go to the airport. I went home maybe 3 or 4 times in between, to Connecticut. In fact, I went so many times home that I owed the Army some money out of my last paycheck. we had a guy in the company commander's office that learned how he was signing all the paperwork for that. When the commander would tell him, he learned how to sign it and make it look like his name. So a lot of times when the company commander was gone, he'd go over to this guy and I got to know him real well. Here's the dates I want to go home. So he signed the order and everything, and I'd go home. So he was doing that with a lot of the people. So when time to leave, I had more vacation time than I should have, so I had to pay some money back. Yeah.
What was your homecoming like?
It wasn't good. My family, I called the family. I didn't want to surprise them because I remember when I was on a month off before I went over, my father and I were watching the news one night, and some guy heard noise and somebody trying to open the door at his house, and he shot through the door, killed his son that was coming home and surprised him. So I says, I'm not surprising anybody. So I had my family came to the airport. I was engaged when I went over. She was with somebody else when I came back, but she showed up. Back then you could walk up to the planes and everything at the airport. I remember getting off and here's my family, happy to see them, happy to see them, and the protesters are there, call us baby killers and things like that.
There were protesters at Bradley?
At Bradley, yeah. Not many, but there was a handful of them there, yeah. And you couldn't wait to, I'll be honest, to get the uniform off. Just happy to be home. And these people, I just didn't realize that we didn't want to be there either. It wasn't our call. So.
What did you do in the days and weeks immediately after your discharge?
I don't really remember. I worked, when I was in high school, I worked as an electrician's helper during the summer. And once I got the draft notice and everything, I went to the electricians union in Hartford, and I put my name in for the apprenticeship. And if they had a class starting by the time I left, that time would have caught, towards my pension while I was over. But I didn't get accepted until I got home. But got home in June, and probably September they started a new class. So I was working.
You went to school to be a colored electrician?
Yeah.
Did you use the GI Bill?
Just a little bit to pay for my books. The electricians union had their own classes, and you worked 5 days a week, and you went 2 nights a week, except for the summer for schooling. So I used it for my books and everything. The rest was paid for by the union. My uncle happened to be the apprentice director when I came home too, so I got in.
So you got your electrician's license and became an electrician?
Right.
And
yeah.
That's what you've done for a career?
That's what I did for a career. Yeah. We did the high rises, commercial and industrial. We didn't do houses. So yeah. In fact, I let my license go probably 2 years ago. Finally.
Do you stay in touch now with any of your friends?
I've made a lot of friends. I started a veterans group after I started going on reunions because the veterans in East Granby were never even invited in their Memorial Day parade or anything. So I spent 7 weeks going through the tax exempt list and calling them, and made a lot of nice people, made a lot of nice friends through this group. In fact, one of the guys I went through high school, ran into him Home Depot in Bloomfield, got talking to him. He happened to move in the same town I'm in. Just 2 years before that, became real close friends since. But that's mostly where my friends are. I mean, I see people on and off. I've lost a good handful of friends from after they were home for years that died. But I keep busy.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
No, it's just the East Granby veterans. We've talked about trying to going into American Legion or something else, and they want to be East Granby veterans. We've had great support from the town. We give out a $1,000 scholarship each year at graduation.
So that group that you're in, the East Granby Veterans, that's from all wars or just Vietnam?
All wars, yeah. We've got them from Second World War on right on down. We got a couple still in the reserves that come. Yeah.
And it sounds like you're pretty active in that group.
Yeah, it takes up most of my time. Yeah. I get help. A lot of them are older veterans, so it's us younger, which I'll be 70 in a couple of weeks, but us younger ones do most of the work and things. We just had Home Depot donate a shed, and they help put it up with us, so we have a fundraiser, tag sales, one of them, so we could get the money for the scholarship. So we needed some place to store it, and Home Depot for free. I mean, gave us a shed, worked on it with us. So I mean, it's.
So you put stuff in there for your tag
Yeah.
year round, and then you have an annual tag sale?
Yep, yes, yep. We do it in our community. We started last year in the community center in town. It's where our tag sale is now. So, we have other fundraisers. There is right over there, Veteran Scholarship Fund. We leave containers like that out around town, and people drop their change and restaurants and stuff like that in there. We go into the schools, like I say, on Memorial Day, not Memorial Day, Veterans Day, either day before or day after they're closed on Veterans. And the elementary schools, we go in, there's skits and things they do for us, songs and stuff. And high school, middle school, we spend the whole day in there with them, talking to, they rotate the kids in through when we talk to them. We've been doing that for 5, 6 years now. So that's one of the better days. That's what it really, it makes this whole thing worth it. You know, and
How did your military service affect your life?
uh, I say for years I didn't want to talk about it. I'd get people asking me questions and stuff, and I felt bad saying it, but I just don't want to talk about it until I went on the reunions and saw my friends. But that's what affected me the most, I guess. And even after going on the reunions, it took me another year and a half to even say I'm going to do something and get these veterans involved in town. I mean, now they're in the parade. This Mark from Mark's Auto Parts has cruise nights and stuff, and some of his workers drive golf carts for our older veterans so they could be in the parade, and the rest of us march. And we're doing a lot for the town, and we're starting now into the very beginning of putting a monument in the center of town for our veterans. So it's changed my life a lot. It's made it busier. Uh, but yet, like I say, all the people I've met, either veterans or non-veterans, there's some nice people out there. There really are.
How would you say that your military experience influenced your thinking about war or about the military in general?
To be honest, I wish nobody had to go through it again. I used to tell everybody, there's a war going to start. The two presidents, let them fight it out, and not us. But I have two sons that, luckily, they didn't want to go. I didn't want them to go. I mean, I'd do anything for the country, and it was for our country. That's one of the things that bothered me too. Uh, I'm over there fighting for the Vietnamese, which needed the help, but yet it's not doing anything for our country. And at times that would bother me. But and came down to it. I think my kids would go if it was for this country. But I'm glad they didn't have to.
Tom, is there anything else that you recall that you'd like to talk about that we haven't discussed yet? Any other memorable experiences or anything I have not asked you about?
Well, once we get off the camera, there probably will be. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. I really, it was an experience. In a way, I'm glad I went through it, but in a way, I wish I never set foot on it. Um, it's just something at times you got to deal with. You did it, and a lot of people don't understand why you went. And I guess they have to be in the same situation. But I am starting to notice more support for the veterans and for the military that are coming home now, which we didn't have for years. I volunteered on the 50th anniversary of Vietnam here at the Bradley Airport, and people I met there, the support and it was fantastic. I mean, it should have been there when these people that had nothing when they came home. They should have been there for them. So.
Well, Tom, I'd like to thank you for your service and thank you for sharing your story.